doing my best to embrace these last slow days of winter. Spring is on the horizon, and with it, it's busyness. I'm so looking forward to it, although as much as I love it and long for sunlight and its warmth on my skin, the birds singing, flowers growing, fresh air and blue skies, I am not so sure I'm ready for its pace. I have so much left on my winter to-do list that needs accomplished. Quite honestly, it's been a pretty stressful and challenging 3 months. But most of that stress is now behind us, and winter is not over. There's still time left to enjoy these slow days and get some things done. The girls are so productive right now. They know spring is coming. They were productive before, really all winter, but now they have really amped up production. We have 14 layers, and there have been some days we're getting 14 eggs. And with these trying times and the prices of eggs, it's been so nice to be able to help our friends and bless those around us. Sometimes in the winter, I do get stuck in a rut. I have a hard time getting going, so I've started implementing this in the morning. I put my couch back together and make it look all pretty. That's probably the equivalent for some people of making the bed, but having to be in an area where it's like high traffic, we're going through it all the time, I'm looking at it, I see it put together, I feel like I need to get the rest of my life and my house put together. So for me, that helps. That might be silly, but it does the trick. Something else that is coming to a close is our school year. We do homeschool. Eleanor is finishing out her first grade year, and she has done awesome, but we're all really ready to be done, and they're ready to get outside and get playing. Something else that the winter allows me to do more of is baking. I just have more time on my hands, and now that that season is coming to a close, I'm trying to make big bulk batches of different things like muffins to have in the freezer for those busier days. I love making bulk of anything because it just frees up so much more of my time. I have so many house projects to work on. We want to redo our kitchen countertops. They're long overdue. I need to patch up so many walls and paint. We need to put trim in, and I have some other building type projects I want to do, things in the garden. There's so much on my list. So this recipe is a maple oatmeal muffin. It's really yummy, very simple. You just take 2 cups of old-fashioned rolled oats and a cup of milk, and you let that soak together. Then you combine a 1/2 cup of maple syrup, a 1/3 cup of olive oil, 2/3 cup of light brown sugar, 2 eggs, 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour, a teaspoon of baking powder, a 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon, a 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, and a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Mix everything together then, and I added in 2 apples chopped up just for fun. You bake them at 400 degrees for about 18 to 25 minutes. You can also find that recipe down in the description. Come on out, ladies. Come on. It is sunny. I actually have to squint today, which is kind of welcomed. It's been a long time since the sun has been out here. I'm wearing a hat today. I don't need to. It's close to 60 degrees today. It's beautiful. But I recently had an ear infection and my left eardrum burst. So that was fun. I need to keep it covered, so that's why I have the hat on. But with it being so nice today, I've been trying to get out whenever the weather allows, just to slowly start getting the garden to where it needs to be for garden season. So today I want to work on my rose bushes. So if you are new around here, I have quite a few rose bushes. Let me count. Okay, so far I have 13 rose bushes, some shrub, some climbers. I may or may not add to them this year. We shall see. They're the most favorite thing to grow in the garden. I love my roses. I'm no pro at it. I don't claim to be, but they've done pretty well for me over the years, and I don't fuss over them too much. I do like to prune them either late fall or late winter into early spring. Some of them I have already pruned. Some, like this one here, I have not. So this is my Olivia Rose Austin. She's beautiful. I've had this one, this will be its 4th year now, and it needs pruned really bad. It is massive, it's overgrown, and some of these really big canes here, I'm gonna take away entirely just to shape it up a bit. Now, I always go by cutting these back by about 1/3. So I'm gonna cut 1/3 of this back. I'm gonna shape it up a bit, and I like to go in and remove any canes that are like kind of crisscrossing or look overly congested. The really skinny, straggly looking ones, I cut them out as well. And anything that looks like dead wood, that gets taken out. And I want to try and trim back all of these canes to right above like a little leaf node. I'll show you. So I'd find a spot about 1/3 of the way down the cane, and then I'd look for one of these little nodes here. That's where like a side shoot would come out, and I would cut, it keeps not wanting to focus, it's too small. I would cut right above that, and I just do that all the way around. So here's the after. I took out all the dead stuff, all the straggly little pieces, trimmed it down about 1/3. And now I can get better airflow. It's shaped up nicer, so that way when the new growth comes on, that comes in a nicer shape as well. So now I'm gonna move on to the next one. So here's the second one's before, and you can see it is completely pulling over this obelisk here. So I really need to thin this one out and re-anchor that. And now here is the after. Looks much better, more kept, and I was able to re-anchor this guy a bit better. I also use this time of year to kind of retrain my climbers and move some of the canes around and get it into a better shape. This one here kind of grew lopsided, so I moved some of the canes from one side and wrapped them around the other. Okay, let's talk about this mess for a moment, shall we? So a couple videos back, I had asked for all of your advice on whether or not we should put stone down here in the pathway since we redid the garden. One of the options I laid out was letting the ground fabric as is. Already that did not work out. As you can see, it's a mess. So we had, I mean, it was freezing here for the longest time. Everything was covered in ice, and then we had a really rapid thaw. After that thaw, we had a ton of rain. It was a muddy mess. And because it happened so quickly, the staples loosened up, and then we had a whole bunch of really high winds, and it just tore them right out of the ground and created this mess that I'm gonna have to fix. So I know for sure I'm not leaving it as it is. Now, for those of you who may be newer, and I mean, I've only been sharing my garden for the last 2 years, but I've been gardening now, this will be my 8th year gardening. Many of you still suggested using the wood chips. I have used wood chips in my garden, in the pathways, for the last 7 years, and I have a lot of issues with them. Number one, it's a lot of work for my size garden. It doesn't just go in the pathways, it goes here in the seating area, in the cottage garden, along the fence line, with the orchard, and up by the berry bushes. We need a lot of wood chips. So that is a huge amount of work to do every season. We used to be able to source them very inexpensively. We had a friend who had a tree service, and he would just bring us a triaxle load of wood chips for like 25 bucks. He is no longer in business, so that's not an option. The next best thing would be to source it from a landscaping company nearby. We don't have chip drop, so we don't have any source for free wood chips. And then it would be about 35 bucks a scoop for natural mulch. We'd need like 10 to 12 scoops. So there's still an investment there, and it'd be an investment we'd have to do every single year.
Now, I have laid ground fabric and put wood chips on top. I have done wood chips over cardboard and done like 6 to 8 inches of wood chips. And the weed pressure is unreal. I would have to come out here every 2 days and weed, and it was just such a huge time sucker. On top of that, the spiders loved the wood chips, and I really don't love spiders, and we had so many spider nests, and anytime like we would disturb the wood chips, spiders would just go running. 2 more things I don't love about wood chips is that they degrade so fast and just turn to nothing, which is good for soil health. I don't deny that, but for how we're growing now, that doesn't really matter too much here in the walkways. And on top of that, my son is chasing a chicken that got out. On top of that, I have said before, we live in a low-lying area here. We're the lowest out of all of the houses. For some reason, our house just sits lower. So whenever it rains, all of the water pools here, and it sits and it lifts up the wood chips and disperses them all over the place, creating a huge mess. So I gave it a good go. I am all for wood chips if they work out for you. I think that's the better option, and in terms of soil health and sustainability and everything, yeah, wood chips are great, but they're just not working out for me here. I really wanted something that would take off some extra work. You know, I wanted something that'd be easier, more easily maintained. I wanted something that just looked really aesthetically pleasing and polished, and I really think that the stone will do that. It'll be hopefully a one-time investment, and only a one-time, you know, big amount of work. I know there'll still be weeds. I'm hoping it won't be as bad. In my mind, nothing can be as bad as those wood chips were. It was just terrible, absolutely terrible. My plan is to do a double layer of this heavy-duty weed blocking of fabric, and Matt's gonna come out and help me lay it underneath like the edges of the beds. We're gonna secure it really well, and we're gonna do like 3 inches of stone. The stone we're gonna get, because this was another thing I heard, is that the pebbles are really hard to like pull a wagon or drive a wheelbarrow through, or if we want to bring the tractor with the wagon through here, that it just would not work out well. We're not planning on getting the really small little pebbles or like the 1B stone. We're gonna get the 2B stone. So Matt does work with stone and he has some experience. And 2B stone, that size just kind of locks together. We have it over here in our seating area, and it's really hard to move actually. Like the kids can hardly even play in it. Grant likes to use his like dump trucks and diggers and stuff, and it's hard to scoop it up. So we're gonna use that. Hopefully it'll interlock. And then we're gonna just get a leaf blower and use that to just get all the dirt and the leaves and everything else out of it. So as of right now, I've decided to go forward with the stone. And a lot of you said, you know, this is my learning ground. This is my classroom for the next property. And what if we don't like the stone? It'd be good to figure that out now. Plus, a lot of you said from a buyer standpoint, it might look really nice to see this, you know, finished, polished space with the stone, and it might actually be a selling point. Hopefully in the next week or so, we're gonna get to work on the ground fabric and securing that and getting that all squared away. I'm gonna put up like the landscape edging here to make sure that the stones don't like spill out over into the grass areas. And then we're gonna go source some stone.
Something else that I have been enjoying doing this winter is recipe testing and experimenting in the kitchen. About a year ago, I started making all of the snacks for kids' church at my church. I just feel really passionate about making sure that kids have good things with good ingredients. I'm all about a treat, but if we're having a treat, I try to make it as healthy as possible. So I just decided to do that myself, and now every week I bring them a snack, and they're my taste testers and they love it. But I have had the chance to make a whole bunch of different things this year, and it's been a lot of fun. So for this week, they got some Brookie Bars, some brownies on the bottom with chocolate chip cookies on the top. So for the brownie layer, it's 3/4 cup of butter, 1 cup of maple sugar, a 1/3 cup of coconut sugar, 2 eggs, a teaspoon of vanilla, a half cup of unsweetened cacao powder, 1 cup of organic all-purpose flour, a half teaspoon of baking soda, a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and then I threw in just a handful of chocolate chips too to make it extra fudgy. The chocolate chip layer is a half cup of butter, 3/4 cup of coconut sugar, a 1/4 cup of raw organic cane sugar, 1 egg, 1 teaspoon of vanilla, 1 1/4 cup of organic all-purpose flour, a half teaspoon of baking soda, a half teaspoon of salt, and 1 cup of chocolate chips. So you spread the brownie layer down first. I used just a cookie sheet lined with parchment. This allows it to bake up at the same rate, so you're not left with a really gooey center and really hard edges. Now I did double the recipe, so if you're only doing a single batch, you might want to use a smaller pan. You place dollops of the cookie dough on top of that brownie batter. This goes into a 350-degree oven for about 30 to 40 minutes. It really just depends on your oven, so just keep an eye on it that last 10 minutes to make sure it doesn't get too brown or too overdone. I want to share with you all a dinner that I made this past week. It's going on our monthly rotation. It's so good, and it is much better than the version you can get from the store, both in flavor and in terms of how healthy it is for you, and that is a homemade chicken patty. So you need 1 pound of ground chicken and a half cup of breadcrumbs. I used gluten-free. If you're doing carnivore, like I'd still consider this a carnivore dish, you could use pork panko. You need 1 egg, a teaspoon of Worcestershire, a teaspoon of Dijon mustard, a tablespoon of lemon juice, a half teaspoon of garlic powder, and the same for onion powder, half teaspoon of salt, 2 tablespoons of mayo, a half cup of freshly grated Parmesan cheese, and 1 tablespoon of Italian parsley. I mixed all of that together. It is a fairly kind of wet mixture, but just pat it out into a patty the best you can and coat it in some more of whatever type of breadcrumbs you are using. These patties get fried up in just a little bit of oil. I had about 2 tablespoons in the pan, and you cook for 5 to 6 minutes each side, or until the internal temperature registers 165 degrees. To go with this, I made some creamy garlic parm rice. You need 1 cup of white rice, 3 tablespoons of butter, some garlic, however much your heart desires, 8 ounces of chicken broth, and then 8 ounces of milk. If you are dairy-free, you can just use all chicken broth. Then you'd need a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1/4 teaspoon of pepper. You cover and cook, simmering for about 18 to 20 minutes or until the rice is tender. Remove the lid and add in some Parmesan cheese. I did about a half cup. If you are dairy-free, I would probably add in some nutritional yeast for flavor. For the other side dish, I made some simple roasted candied carrots. I have a 1/3 cup of butter in here. Now, I just recently saw this, but instead of going to the trouble of scraping every last bit of butter off of the wrapper, I saw someone take it and fold it up and stick it in their fridge or freezer, and then they pull that out like to coat their baking dishes or pans or whatever, and I just thought that was really genius. So I've been doing that. I added some salt, like a half teaspoon, and about a 1/3 cup of coconut sugar. You could use brown sugar as well. Mix that all together, and I just roasted them at 400 degrees until they were tender. It took about 20 to 25 minutes. Okay, my friend, that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I hope you enjoyed and are leaving inspired. I wanted to say a quick thank you to everyone who watched my last video and just offered so much support. The outpouring of love, I was just blown away. You all are such a blessing. So many of you actually had me in tears in a good way, but it was just very encouraging to me. I have read through all of them. I have started replying. I'm not sure I'm going to make it through all of them because as of right now, there's close to 500 comments. But you all are the best. I appreciate you so much. Thank you for being here, hanging out with me. Many blessings on your week, friend. Until next time, take care.